Step right up, all beliefs available. Purpose, peace, prosperity. Find the one that fits you.
Man, there's so many. Everybody says theirs is the right way. Which one's actually true? What about this one?
That one sells a lot these days. It's trending. Looks disciplined, feels powerful. But before you pick it, you should know it comes with some things that they won't tell you up front.
Like what?
Well, you won't hear it on the news, you won't see it on TikTok, but once you read what's actually written inside, you'll never look at it the same again. And if you do, all the power to you.
Now, before we get into it, YouTube has limits, therefore there's a lot I can't say here. If you saw my video on St. Joseph, then you already know that the format is going to be changing for a bit because I recently had spinal canal surgery. I'm not super mobile right now. That means for the next couple videos, it's going to be completely voiceover and animation. If that's not your thing, I get it. But this is temporary. Once I recover, I'm going to be back in front of the camera. In the meantime, the content is still going to keep evolving and going deeper. So if you're with me, I appreciate you. But now let's start the show. Now, most people already know about Islam and how it begins. But since we're going to be talking about the beginning, it all starts with one man, Muhammad. And he was visited by an angel in a way no other prophet was visited. No angel in the Bible ever appears like this to a prophet. Not even once. Yes, angels punish for unbelief in scripture, but you don't see an angel responding with physical force like what happened to Muhammad. This is where people start asking, who was this angel really? And could it be Gabriel? Because Muhammad's uncle said, oh, that was an angel who spoke to Moses. Well, guess what? Gabriel never spoke to Moses, Mr. Muhammad's uncle. Alright, hold on. Before I get hated on real quick, it's not really his uncle. It's just a saying in Arabic that they would say, so it kind of just translates to nephew, but it's just a saying. If you watch other breakdowns, people argue that maybe it was demonic or some psychological episode, schizophrenia, whatever. Either way, it obviously wasn't angelic. Muhammad himself didn't instantly recognize it as an angel, and that's the point. Now, since everything in Islam is keyed to this one man, I want us to look at everything logically, not emotionally. There's a difference between my perspective and what's actually logical. Truth can feel like a perspective, and I get that. However, does the perspective actually make sense? That's the point. And Muhammad is the key. This matters. If you want to become a Muslim, you must accept Muhammad as a prophet. That's literally the Shahada. It's non-negotiable. I found this one site that digs into the historical validity claims around Islam. It ties into other resources so that you can check yourself. Because my goal isn't to convince you, my goal is just to get you to look. Islamic tradition says that Muhammad's line runs through Ishmael, and that Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba. Well, this outside source says otherwise. It straight up argues that Muhammad wasn't even related to Ishmael at all, that this idea is built on late and unreliable reports. But here's the thing, if you want to say he is connected, the Bible makes it clear that Ishmael was blessed, yes, but that the covenant didn't go through him. The covenant went through Isaac. So if Muhammad isn't linked to Ishmael, then the entire genealogy claim falls apart. But if he is, it still doesn't give covenant authority because the covenant line was never his in the first place. Now, as I said, I'm just telling you just to read and verify. It's something that I've never come across before, and I found it recently while making this video, and I'm going to link the website in the description so you can look into the articles yourself. And I also want to point out that we're not here to attack people. We're here to analyze and think for ourselves. We're asking if this belief called Islam is safe and true, and whether or not it should even be taught to kids. Think about it that way. That's it. Alright, so instead of focusing on the cave detail, let's move forward. After the whole, was it an angel or not, Muhammad starts his prophethood. But let's pause for a second. What does that word even mean? Prophet. A prophet is someone who speaks on behalf of God, and it's how God reaches his people. In Islam, it's the same concept but with one core message. Believe in Allah, believe in one God, and obey his messenger. That's it. But let's talk about how it worked in the Bible. God also sent prophets over and over. And what happened to them? They were rejected, they were mocked, and many were killed. That's why Jesus gives the parable in Matthew 21. Last of all, he sent his son. They will respect my son, he said. But when the tenants saw the son, they said to each other, this is the heir. Come, let's kill him and take his inheritance. Jesus is saying all the prophets were rejected. So God finally sent his son. And Paul confirms that in Hebrews, where he states that in the past God spoke to our ancestors through prophets at many times and in various ways. But in these last days, keyword, last days, he has spoken to us by his Son. The last voice is the Son of God. So ask yourself this. If God already sent his Son, why does he need to send another prophet after that? Now let's go back to Islam. You ask a Muslim, who's the Messiah? They'll say, Jesus. No hesitation. The Quran even says that the angel said, "O Mary, Allah gives you good news of a word from him whose name will be the Messiah." So cool, Jesus is the Messiah. But here's the catch. What does the Messiah even mean in Islam? Most Muslims don't know, and even Islamic scholars don't agree. It said he's called the Messiah because he healed people. Okay, that makes sense. Or it means anointed, purified, or that he was well-traveled. Alright, fair enough. But then here's the problem. Why isn't the prophet Elijah called the Messiah? And many prophets fit those boxes: healing, miracles, traveling, being set apart. So how come they're not called the Messiah? No one really knows because the Quran never explains it. It just repeats the title 11 times with no definition. So why are we even talking about this? Well, because there's no essential mission or function tied to the Messiah within Islamic theology. And to me, that's a huge problem. Now, in Christianity, the role of the Messiah is crystal clear. We know exactly who he is and why he came. The Messiah is Jesus Christ, God in the flesh. And yes, Muslims have a serious issue with that. They ask, how can God become a man? Are you saying God was once a baby? Absolutely. That's exactly what we believe. In fact, Isaiah 9:6 says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." Did you catch that? The child will be called Mighty God. So yes, God entered into human history as a baby, as the Messiah, to save us. Now let's look at Judaism for a second. While Jews reject Jesus as the Messiah, at least they have a defined role for who the Messiah is supposed to be. A political deliverer, a restorer of Israel, a bringer of peace. But Islam, the Messiah, Jesus, yet there's no real explanation because they strip the title of the actual meaning. It becomes an empty label, and to me that's a serious contradiction and problem. And if the Muslims say that Christians are corrupted and led astray, that our scriptures are false and our understanding is flawed, then logically you'd expect the one we claim as Messiah, Jesus, to be the source of that corruption, right? Because if that were true, then the Messiah by Islamic logic would be the one who led the most people astray. That's not who Jesus is. So again, if Islam calls Jesus the Messiah but gives him no real mission or authority, how does that title even matter? Well, since the Messiah is just a prophet in Islam, let's get back to who Muslims consider as the greatest of all prophets, Muhammad. Now, we could spend the rest of this video talking about the darker side of his prophethood, the slaves, the of captives, the genocides, all of it. But those are things I saved for Patreon where we could speak uncensored. Right now, I want to focus on something else. Teachings that if they came from anyone else, you would instantly question their sanity or morality. But because it's Muhammad, millions are taught to never question any of it. So let's take a look. In most places around the world, dogs are considered man's best friend. Loyal, loving, protective, playful. But not according to Muhammad. In Islam, dogs are often viewed as ritually impure. So impure that Muhammad taught angels won't even enter a house if a dog is inside. And get this, if a dog licks an item, Muhammad said to wash it 7 times, and the first time using dirt. Let's pause for a second. One thing you'll notice about Muhammad, he's extremely specific about things. Not just with this, but with so many things. Small examples include wash this 7 times, say this 33 times, pray 5 times a day, face this exact direction at this exact time. Even how you enter a room and how you go to the bathroom, there's a rule. It's almost as if he was obsessed with control and repetition. Now back to the dogs. It actually gets worse. Muhammad even ordered the killing of dogs. Once a jet black dog with 2 white spots above the eyes because he said such a dog is a devil. Think about it. A prophet of God referring to a black dog as a devil. and commanding dogs to be killed. Only after this, his companions pushed back saying, "But what about the dogs that guard our homes and herd our sheep?" Then he allowed some exceptions. But the hatred was already clear. So let me ask you, what kind of prophet of God commands the killing of innocent animals simply for existing, especially animals known for loyalty and protection? I understand killing to eat or survive, sure, but this isn't that. This is something else. So if you're Muslim and you happen to have a dog as a pet, and if you also have a security system, guess what? According to Muhammad, your dog has no purpose. And if it doesn't have a purpose, you should kill it. That's not me saying it. That's your prophet. And according to the Quran, if you don't obey Muhammad, you don't obey Allah. Okay, we get it. Muhammad hated dogs, but let's move on. One of the biggest lies you hear in the modern Islamic world, especially in the West, is that there's no racism in Islam. That Islam is pro-equality, pro-black, and I get it. Most of us grew up looking up to Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, and both of them were influential Muslims, and they deserve to be celebrated. Now let's keep it real for a second. You probably heard people say that Christianity is the white man's religion. But let's ask the question nobody asked. What did Muhammad himself say about black people? Well, according to Muhammad, the Kaaba, Islam's holiest site, will one day be destroyed by a black man. Not a white man, not a Jew, not an enemy from the West, a black man. And of course, Muhammad owned black slaves, and here's where it gets even worse. A runaway non-black slave escaped from his master, became Muslim, and pledged allegiance to Muhammad. And when the slave's owner eventually came looking for him, Muhammad made him an offer he couldn't refuse. He already had 2 loyal black slaves serving him, but he offered both of them up to get that one non-black man back. And it's not like those 2 were strangers. They were already in Muhammad's service, surrounded by his teachings, living under his leadership. There's a strong chance they were Muslims too, but that didn't matter. Their faith and their allegiance didn't protect them. And just when you think it couldn't get worse, Muhammad didn't just own black people and trade them, he also used blackness itself as a sign of shame. There's a hadith where a man accuses his wife of cheating, and both of them stand before Muhammad to invoke curses on themselves. After the wife swears her innocence, Muhammad curses her, saying that she will give birth to a curly-haired black child, and she did. So let's be real about what he's saying. According to Muhammad, if a woman is being cursed for adultery, then the result of that curse is a child who's black with curly hair. That baby's blackness, in other words, is the product of sin, the curse. That curse could have been anything. Why did Muhammad choose blackness? Is Muhammad saying that if you're black and if you have curly hair, your parents were probably cursing each other and you were the result? Well, as someone who does have curly hair, I guess it is what it is. Either way, that's not prophetic, that's not divine, that's racist. Before we go, let's ask an honest question. We already know Muhammad married his 6-year-old and consummated the marriage when she was 9. That's public record, and even Muslims don't deny it. So at what point do we start questioning the morality of this man and the religion he brings? Because remember, to obey him is to obey Allah. These days it seems like a lot of people are shopping for religion. Whatever's trending, that's what they follow. Well, I'm the kind of person who needs to know everything before I believe in something. I was an atheist before, and when I considered Islam, I looked at everything and I had to ask myself, if this man, Muhammad, doesn't carry himself like any prophet God has ever sent, if his character doesn't even come close to Christ, why would I trust him over Christ? Why would I take his word over Paul, over John, over Matthew, Luke, over Peter, and the saints who gave their lives for the gospel? Muslims will always say that the Bible has been changed and is not reliable. Well, did you know that the Hadiths, the most important Islamic texts after the Quran, weren't even written down until 200 to 250 years after Muhammad's death? And as for the Quran, the claim that it's never been changed and that there's only one perfect version, that's already been debunked. There's been early manuscripts that show textual corrections. There's missing verses and over 30 different recitations that differ from one another. So again, if you're gonna question the Bible's reliability, let's be consistent. In the end, whether if you choose to follow Islam or not, that's your life. But this channel, this is a Christian channel. We're not here to battle Muslims, we're not here to attack anybody. We're here to present resources and ask questions. But for now, I'm the prodigal son. Read for yourself, ask questions, and always choose truth over what's trending.